Back in the 90s, I was a true blue Sega kid. Some of my best and most earliest memories for gaming was on my Sega Genesis. Today, I love to re-experience those games any way that I can. So I was pretty interested when I found out about a plug-and-play HDMI solution for the original Genesis hardware. The folks at Pound Technology sent in their new HD link cable for the Sega Genesis for us to review. Once we got it in the studio, we immediately took it for a test drive and we were pretty impressed with the results. Like I said, this is a plug-and-play solution. Absolutely no modding of any kind is required for your original Sega Genesis hardware. In the box, you get the Pound HD link cable with a connector for your Genesis Model 2 or 3, a USB cable for power, an HDMI cable, and an adapter to connect the link cable to your Model 1 Genesis. And unfortunately, there isn't a manual, but you can look online to see how to use it, but it's pretty straightforward as it is. I've seen HDMI modifications for Genesis before, but I far prefer a method like this. It's straightforward and way less expensive. If you're currently playing your Genesis using composite cables with an AV to HDMI adapter you found off the internet, here are the ways that the Pound Link cable will vastly improve your gaming experience. Some HDMI adapters will stretch out your console signal to a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is not the way Sonic is supposed to look. This link cable keeps your game at the proper 4:3 aspect ratio and upscales the image to 720p. And then there is image quality. The gameplay you get through standard composite cables is kind of blurry and the colors can be dark and dull because they don't support RGB color. On an HD TV, it ends up not looking very good at all. This link cable gives you a much crisper image with more definition in the pixels. It also uses the RGB signal so you get brighter, more vivid colors. This higher detail really stands out when you look at a scene with a dawn or dusk sky or any image with color gradients. And personally, I prefer this sharp pixelated look. Now, there is one small downside to the more defined pixels, however. When you're scrolling through a level, when there are many different colors mixed together, the image will kind of look jittery. In the composite gameplay, the pixels were so soft that you really couldn't pick out any individuality between them. They blurred together so the scrolling looked seamless. It didn't affect my gameplay at all, it was just something that I noticed when using this Pound cable. Speaking of gameplay, I was very happy to see that there was no discernible input lag when using the link cable. The games play just as I remember them. Out of the box, this link cable is compatible with a Genesis Model 2 or 3, and there is an included adapter to hook it up to a Model 1. Most of the gameplay you've seen so far was on a Model 1, and we tested it out both on the Model 1 and 2 Genesis, and they both looked great. But we did notice something troubling when we hooked up the link cable to our Model 1 for the first time. The connector, well, it didn't plug in easily and actually felt like it didn't fit. It made me feel like I might have been breaking the console when trying to plug it in. After testing the gameplay with the link cable, we unplugged it and retested the Model 1 with the composite cables. It still worked fine and there was no immediate damage to the console from the cable that we could tell. I would just recommend any Model 1 users to take that into account and just be a little careful when plugging it in. My only complaint about the Genesis link cable is a lack of features in visual settings, like scanline support or resolution options. But for the price, it's really hard to be upset about that for too long. For those of you who do want all the settings and options you could ever want and are willing to spend more money, there is the analog Mega SG, which we looked at not too long ago on this channel. The picture out of the Mega SG is sharper than this link cable and the color representation is more consistent, but it does come at a cost. And I feel the Genesis link cable is the perfect middle ground for someone not looking to break the bank and just wants an easy to use HDMI solution for their current Sega Genesis that they already own. Unfortunately, you're not going to find a complete replacement for the analog Mega SG with this cable, but what you will get is an easy HDMI solution that provides a night and day improvement over your old composite cables. Now, I was seriously impressed with the image my old Genesis was capable of getting with these cables, and if it sounds like this cable's something you're looking for, then I completely recommend it, especially if you're looking for the cheapest solution on the market that gets you the best image quality possible.